I thank the honourable member for McEwen. The question is that the amendment be disagreed to, and I call the honourable member for Monash.
Deputy Speaker, thank you for this opportunity to address the parliament around the Veterans Affairs issue. Every now and again, there is a moment that happens in the parliament that should not be missed, where history is made, where a change comes, and we as parliamentarians need to note it. What is about to happen at the retirement of the member for Lingiari is that our last connection to the old house, to the old Parliament House, will be severed on the retirement of Warren Snowdon. He was the Minister for Veterans Affairs from 2010 to September 2013. Warren Snowdon achieved two things I would like to acknowledge amongst the many other achievements. He moved the Veterans Affairs equivalent of Five Eyes from officer level up to ministerial level, to make the issues far more important than the current parliaments of the day were recognising. Subsequently, the second ministerial meeting was held here in Canberra, and that was Warren's work. From 2010 to 2012, Warren focused on the eminent persons group to start planning the Gallipoli event of 2015. So he knew that they had to look ahead and they had to be 3 years out to make this event the very important event that it was. To his credit, the member for Lingiari understood the value of relationships. To underpin such important work, he twice visited Turkey and France. His foresight in dealing with the mayor of the province of Villers-Bretonneux was held when he happened to have a signed Wallabies jumper at hand to give as a gift to the mayor. Closer to home, according to one of Warren's return speech, I take it was, Warren wondered if having a child at the height of his 2013 campaign to grab the granny vote and some of the women's vote. I have heard since, though, that the women of his area rallied and put out the cry, "Support Elizabeth, vote Warren, go back to Canberra." He did return, and his list, if you went of his list of parliamentary achievements, you've got two A4 pages of tiny writing, which I wouldn't even try to go through in the work that he's done in the parliament. But some of the things I'd like to highlight. In August 2013, he launched the online suicide prevention and mental health resource Operation Life Online. In June 2013, improved military compensation arrangements in response to the 2011 review of military compensation. Changes to the Military Compensation and Rehabilitation Act 2004 included increased permanent impairment compensation, DVA white cards for former ADF members with long-term health conditions accepted under the Safety, Rehabilitation and Compensation Act. He increased the compensation for dependent children of deceased ADF members. In May of 2013, new Veterans Mental Health Strategy launched, proposed extended arrangements allowing access to mental health supports, here we go again, supports prior to compensation claims, post-discharge, GP assessments and extending the Veterans and Veterans' Families Counselling Service to those with certain peacetime service. May 2012, funding announced for the Anzac Centenary Commemorative Program to run from 2014 all the way through to 2018. In May and June of 2012, the government provided assistance to Bomber Command veterans travelling to London for the dedication of the new Bomber Command Memorial on the 28th of June 2012. In February of 2012, first national observance of the bombing of Darwin, held on the 70th anniversary. December 2011, the member for Lingiari, Australian personnel involved in maintenance, transport or decontamination of aircraft used in the British nuclear testing program became eligible for cancer testing and treatment. In September 2011, prisoner of war recognition supplement was introduced. It was paid to veterans who were prisoners of war and to civilian detainees. It was paid at the rate of $500 per fortnight and indexed in line with the CPI. It was not income for income tax purposes or the purposes of Social Security or Veterans Entitlements income tax. In May of 2011, the Coordinated Veterans Care Program was introduced to provide ongoing, planned and coordinated primary and community care for gold card holders who have chronic conditions and complex care needs and were at risk of unplanned hospitalisation. Deputy Speaker, it's always a pleasure for me. Sharon Burgess gave her valedictory speech, and I've heard Member for Lingiari speak to the Parliament, but in March 2011 he released the Military Compensation Review, a review of the Military Compensation and Rehabilitation Act 2004. And in 2010, members of the Australian Protective Services who patrolled the Maralinga site up to June 1998 became eligible for cancer testing and treatment. Serious dedication around mental health and the condition of the community that Veterans Affairs ministers become a part of their family. For all his hard work, Warren is to be congratulated. The Parliament is the better for it. Having said that, I'll refer to his first speech in just a moment. The era that Warren first joined the Parliament in, which was the old Parliament House, was totally different to the expanses of this Parliament House. Everybody was connected together in a very small group of people, and it's only what I've been told. But it's not, and so the interaction between members, staff, ministers, backbenchers was fierce and unrelenting for the whole of the time they were there. COVID has had us so disconnected in this House, the social distancing and all the measures that we've had to deal with, whereas the old House was a very small unit, and the interaction of parliamentarians then was quite different than it is today. So when you have someone coming from that era and still being here in 2021 and having suffered a loss, so I identify with the member for Lingiari because I've been once in this place twice, and I know how hard it is to come back. I know how hard it is to stay here in a marginal seat, like the member for Lingiari, and there are many people, I'm sure the member for Lingiari won't talk about them, who would be very happy if he wasn't in this place, who would be very happy if he'd been booted out long ago. You've got to fight for your position, you've got to fight to stay here. It's hard to come in, it's difficult when you're in here, and it's very easy to be thrown out. So you've got to be a dedicated parliamentarian as well, and have a commitment to the people that you serve, the people of this nation, the party you represent, the caucus you're a part of, and then this House of Representatives, this place where the decisions for the nation are taken. And it's a privilege for all of us to be a part of that decision-making process for the nation, in good times and bad. The member for Lingiari said in his first speech, "The nation cannot pretend to wear the mantle of maturity until the Indigenous rights of Aboriginal Australians are given formal recognition and the demands by Aboriginal and Islander people for compensation for land stolen and for social and cultural disruption are addressed." He said, "In my view, this should involve appropriate amendments to the Constitution." Well, I say to the member for Lingiari, we stand here today probably you and I in unison, on that need to change the Constitution and recognise the importance of the Indigenous people in this nation. Further, he said, until we give back to the black man just a bit of the land that was his, without strings attached to snatch it back, without anything but complete generosity of spirit, in concession for the evil we have done him, until we do that, we will remain what we have always been so far, a people without integrity, not a nation but a community of thieves. They're pretty strong words for a first speech in the place. But those words were written and spoken by someone who had a clear sense of responsibility of representation. I wish the member for Lingiari and all who travel with him, his family and friends, the very, very best in his retirement. May you go well, and may the sunsets of the Northern Territory be a part of your days.